Brahmachaloka Dipati Sahampati Katanjaliana Divarambayachata Sandita Sata Parajaka Jatika Dese Tudamam Anukam Imam Pajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So, I had this on my shrine for the 2-month retreat that I was able to have here. And this in Pali is the first verse of the Dhammapada. In English, it's all experience is preceded by the mind, led by the mind, made by the mind. Powerful statement of the Buddha. Powerful and true. And not an idea, not philosophy, actual reality. Our world is made by the mind. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. How does that work to completely convince you? And what does that mean? So first, how does it work? So I think this entire group the Buddha took the human life, the human experience, and divided it up in different ways. And the most basic way was just namarupa, just mentality and materiality, just taking that pie and cutting it down the middle. And then the next one that he did a lot was the 5 aggregates, the 5 khandas, these 5 collections that make up the human experience. And in this instance, the rupa, the materiality is one of the 5 khandas, and then the mentality is divided more discreetly into 4 components. The first being this feeling tone that actually is driving the ship, but that's a different Dhamma talk. Neutral, pleasant or unpleasant for every nanosecond of our consciousness. And then the second of these 4 khandas that make up mentality is perception, sanya. And I'm going to talk quite a bit about that. And then the third is our mental formations, our mental constructs, sankhara. And then the fourth is consciousness. And all consciousness does is know. It's like a blank screen. And so this is how it works. Perception, all consciousness knows. I'll give an example. And sight is it's a very salient example. So with sight, all eye consciousness knows is color and shape. I mean, and science tells us this. I mean, the Buddha knew it, but now science tells us this. All the retina, all the eye perceives is color and shape. And so I walk into the kitchen and there's an apple sitting on the table. Let's say it's a red apple, not a green apple. All that my consciousness knows is sort of roundish and red. That I know that that's an apple. This is all the work of Sanya. This is all the work of perception. This is what perception does. We we are living in a simulated world, each and every one of us, that our perception is filling in the blanks. That's why you can have optical illusions where, there's a pattern and then they'll skip out pieces of the pattern, but we don't notice that. Our perception fills in the gap. Our perception is hard at work. The Buddha makes this very, very clear in the numerical discourses, the Anguttara Nikaya, in the Book of Fours, Sutta 45. This is a sutta that gets quoted a lot. When I read this part, you'll recognize it. Many of you. It's with a god. A deva comes to see the Buddha, and his name is Rohitasa. And Rohitasa had been had an existence where he was mystical and had many powers, and he was trying to find the end of the world, but he couldn't by traveling. And he comes and now as a deva in this next existence and recounts all of his exploration and all of his efforts and asks the Buddha about the end of the world. And I passed away along the way, from that existence, never reaching the end of the world. And he goes on to say, it's incredible, sir. It's amazing how well this was said by the Buddha, because the Buddha said you can't find the end of the world that way. And then the Buddha talks to him. Friend, this is the Buddha. I say it's not possible to know or see or reach the end of the world by traveling to a place where there's no being born, growing old, dying, passing away, or being reborn. But I also say there's no making an end of suffering without reaching the end of the world. For it is in this fathom long body, this 6 foot long, very male oriented, the suttas. For it is in this 6 foot long body with its perception and mind that I describe the world, its origin, its cessation, and the practice that leads to its cessation. The end of the world can never be reached by traveling, but without reaching the end of the world, there is no release from suffering. So an intelligent person, understanding the world, has completed the spiritual journey and gone to the end of the world. But it's in this 6 foot long body with its perception, sanya, and intellect and mind that I describe the world. And we've all joked like, oh, they're living in their own world. Well, it's not a joke. Yes, they are. And I am too. And you are, and you are, and you are. We're all living in our own world that our perception is feeding to our consciousness and simulating. And that's how sometimes we misperceive. because perception, got it wrong. And when we're asleep and dreaming, our perception is freed from the constraints of raw physical stimuli. And that's why we create wild worlds in our dreams where we can fly and, you know, pe- people morph and, just these whole worlds, because that's perception without being on the leash of of our senses. And it works if our senses work, and our our minds are, functioning okay. uh it lets us navigate the world, this simulation of the world that we all live in. And it, it just to take it a step farther, it's dependent on our senses. Uh, and our senses have limits, and other species that have different apparatus live in different worlds. Bees see ultraviolet lights, and dogs hear almost twice as high as humans. I never understood that as a little kid. This whistle that made no sound that the dog could hear. I couldn't get my head around it. That a dog has different apparatus. Bats barely see, and they navigate the world through echo. This echo. I was a speech language pathologist my most recent career, and worked with a girl. She was 3 and blind from birth. And I would go meet her in the waiting room, to bring her to the therapy room. And she was already learning this echo location. And she could walk down the hall going and navigate, and didn't use a cane, and never banged into anything. It's 3. It was stunning. Okay, now I'm going to take it a step farther. Now, neuroscience is, and this is very recent, like maybe the last 10 years, with all of the, fMRI and all of the ways that they can understand what's happening with the brain, and such interesting consciousness at this time in neuroscience. Turns out all this filling in and this work of perception is actually, turns out, a small fraction of what the mind is doing. There's um I think it's called Bayesian Bayesian hypothesis, and this predictive processing. We are spending the bulk of our time and energy cognitively actually anticipating, predicting what what's going to happen, from the stimuli right up to our all of our sankharas about it, all of our mental proliferation. We and this The Buddha's saying that perception and mind. Amazing. The Buddha knew this. Perception and intellect. He knew. Neuroscience has just caught up to that piece. And uh, it just, all experience is preceded by the mind. Just to understand the primacy of the mind. The mind is the forerunner. The mind is creating the world that we live in. And the state of the mind ends up being expressed in the body. And again, science and medicine is catching up to this. It's more accurate, much more accurate for us, especially as Buddhist practitioners, to think about the body is in the mind. It's not the mind is in the body. The all experience is preceded by the mind. And the state of the mind is reflected in the body. And so much is being written about this now. The book that the body keeps score. Gabor Mate is talking about this nonstop. Uh, and research is showing it's incredible. Women, women that have experienced sexual abuse, much more likely to get cervical cancer, to the point where Gabor Mate now calls it uh, rape cancer. And I don't know if people know about the vagina monologues. The author of the vagina monologues, Eve Ensler, who now goes by V, Eve Ensler, who was um, the recipient of sexual molestation from her father, has done so much for the world, helping women that have experienced that. And she herself, cervical cancer, almost died. She's written a beautiful book in the body of the world about that experience. Uh, I mean, I can go on and on and on, seriously, on and on and on about this link between the mind and the body. There's an epidemic started in Japan, and they have a word for it, a Japanese word for it, karoshi, for dying from work, from overwork. Karoshi, and this epidemic started in Japan, but it's now becoming worldwide. So much so, the World Health Organization doing research around it, and certain countries, Belgium's moved to a 4-day work week. Um, I can go on and on examples of uh, the state of the mind being expressed in the body, in its wellness and its illness. And the Abhidhamma, uh, it breaks it down. This, the mind precedes all experience. And the Abhidhamma, it it clarifies that the body there's four causes, four contributors. And in the suttas, it's clear that this body is from old karma. So from, that because that's how I got born. And um, how how well I can see, like so much is it's old karma. And then the second contributor is nutriment, of course. What am I eating? What am I breathing? And a third contributor is temperature, sort of like the whole kind of the catch-all for the environment that I'm in. And but the fourth is mind, that like moment by moment by moment, the mind is influencing the condition of the body. And we know this as meditators. When you have a very wholesome mind state, uh, often it will feel very good in the body. Now, the Abhidhamma is realistic, right? Like nutriment. And so if I've just eaten, something that's given me food poisoning, I can have as much metta in my heart as as I've ever had, but I'm still going to get sick because I had contaminated food. So, seriously, the quality of our life, it comes down to the quality of our mind. And this can be very encouraging when we're getting old and parts of the body aren't what they were before, or we get a diagnosis of cancer, um, anything. The quality of the mind, most important thing. All experience is preceded by the mind. So that's how it works, or some of how it works. And what does it mean? It means that we need to really, really, really take good care of our minds. And going on in the Dhammapada, all experience is preceded by the mind, led by mind, made by mind. And you probably know these verses. Speak or act with a corrupted mind, and suffering follows. As the wagon wheel follows the hoof of the ox. In the Buddha's in the canon, it's always the bad news and then the good news. That's always the way the Buddha does it. Always ends on an up. All experience is preceded by the mind, led by mind, made by mind. Speak or act with a clear mind, and happiness follows like a never departing shadow. Such beautiful similes. You think about the wagon wheel with the ox. It's stiff and it's like hounding, you know. And then you think of a never departing shadow. It's weightless, and sometimes it's bigger. It's bigger than the object that it's the shadow of. Happiness follows like a never departing shadow. So we want to be taking extremely good care of our minds, the primacy of the mind. There's many, many times in the suttas. It's one of my favorite phrases. It talks about not shirking our responsibility to cultivate wholesome mind states. You know, what are you supposed to be doing in your life? You shouldn't shirk your responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's your job. It's not, it's not, we want to become more and more independent of the the political scene, the weather, the the moods of others, the things that can impinge and can press upon us. Uh, we do not want to shirk the responsibility of cultivating wholesome mind states. And it's a conundrum. We come to spiritual practice, and no matter what, we bring all of our defilements with us. I mean, it can't be any other way. We bring all of our worldly habits to our meditation practice. It's almost like we're here trying to perform this brain surgery or this heart surgery with dirty instruments, because that's what we have. The Buddha has that great simile about the cloth and dyeing the cloth. And first you have to get all the dirt out of the cloth, all the oil, all the soil out of the cloth. And this is basically the first chapter of our meditation life. And sometimes it's a very long chapter for some of us. And the beginning is to start being really, really honest, really, really, really honest with ourselves about what's there. And um, figuring out a way to welcome it. Oh, fear. Oh, yeah, that's fear. I'm feeling fear. Oh, impatience. Or, boredom. Or you're meditating and then you realize that you're not content. You want it to go deeper. This will kill your meditation and it will kill your contentment. We really, really, really want to be on guard for the craving that can um, bite at our heels uh, in our meditation. You want to become very sensitive to it. Just know, here I am with my breath, my friend. We're hanging out. I'm so happy. Yeah. And then when a hindrance arises, like, oh, um, I'm feeling irritated with that clock. Um, we must notice it and care. Oh, bless my heart. I want it to be easier. Bless my heart. I want it to be more quiet. And it's not. It's like this. And our two big hindrances, craving and aversion, um, they're they're hindrances, they're unskillful, and yet they often contain information. And it can be useful instead of like, oh, I've got craving, bad me. This is so unproductive. This is so not helpful. You know, if I'm uh sometimes we're craving I'll speak from my own life. At times I'll especially on retreat, you begin to crave uh contact or crave sense desire, like just a hot chocolate or um and instead of beating myself up about that, it's wonderful to uh, care for it, to know it's there, and then to investigate. Oh, um, because sometimes there's a need. Maybe I need a break. Maybe I need a treat. Maybe I'm thinking that this hot chocolate will give me a sense of comfort. And so sometimes it's very good to look at the craving and then try and get to the need, and then figure out, is there a wholesome way that I can get that need met? A big one for many people at this point is the phone or YouTube. And a lot of times what that is um, we want some kind of a quick hit to make us feel good. We want something that makes us feel like a quick, easy hit. Something funny to make us laugh, or something interesting to help with our boredom, or something to distract ourselves. you know, get involved in some other drama, some other story. Uh, and so it's good to look at what is the need, and then explore. Is there a more productive, more actually fulfilling way for me to get that need met? And it does. It takes some energy, but it's the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves. And then aversion, even easier to see that it's carrying some information. Is aversion almost always is because in some way there's been, an impact on us. Uh, if it's aversion towards another person or within a relationship, that we're feeling that someone didn't honor their word, or honor our word, or consider us, or and and what we can learn is that when that aversion comes, that we can use uh, skillful means, and we can use our communication, and we can get clear about what it is, that what way we felt not considered, not respected, not protected, invaded, and then use our language and communicate, uh, instead of just suppressing the aversion or having more aversion to the aversion. And when we have aversion that's just in our internal system, what it needs is love. Just needs acceptance and care, and a building of trust that I can care for you, and I can take good care of myself. So, not shirking our responsibility for creating wholesome mind states. And one of the big ways that we do that is to take care of our own craving and aversion. That's how we do it. We start where we are. We're honest. We roll up our sleeves, and we accept, and we care. We get help when we need it. I'll end with a beautiful simile from the Connected Discourses, the book of 55, Sutta 38. And it's called Rain. This is how we do it. The Buddha gives this beautiful simile about water flows downhill to fill the hollows, crevices, and creeks. And as they become full, they fill up the pools fill up the lakes, and the lakes fill up the streams, and the streams fill up the rivers. As the rivers become full, they fill up the ocean. And in the same way, drop by drop, we will clean the dirty cloth inside inside each one of us. Yeah. So I'll end there, and totally invite questions and comments. And I'll put it back to gallery if that's all right.
So I guess you're the one who will see any hands up, either the reaction hand or a physical hand to
Yeah,
the
great.
question. Okay, you can just
Totally. Yeah.
do that.
Anne, please.
Hi. Just to say, this is very helpful at this very challenging time in the world. There's just too much going on. It's too much negative evil stuff happening. So thank you. This is very helpful.
And Anne, I think it's important for us to realize, like there's ebbs and flows, but samsara is samsara. And uh, things have always been corrupt and unstable. They're just a little bit more now. And there have been other periods. You think about the 20th century, just racked with war. Um, yeah,
But it's helpful. Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. We really, really, really have to take care of our own minds. And we shouldn't, honestly, it's good to know what's going on, but you don't want to watch too much news. The news is all designed to create fear. If it bleeds, it leads. It's just the way the news is. There's a linguist, Deborah Tannen. Does anyone know Deborah Tannen? She's written amazing books that are completely accessible. She's an academic linguist. Um, Lots around gender, but she's got a really good book about about um, about the news and the change in the public forum. And she uses who was the president? Roosevelt. Uh, Like he couldn't walk, right? But that was never in the news. I mean, the news has really changed. It's gotten much, much more gory. Yeah. I haven't read it. I've heard her talk about it, but I mean, all of the media personnel knew that the president couldn't walk, but it was kept private. It's a very different time. That 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 it The news has gotten more and more combative, conflict, argumentative. And again, a lot of this is all capitalism. It's about money, about selling. Yeah. Sita.
Hi, I thank you very much for your Dhamma talk. And yes, I'm finding it helpful as well to think about aversion. But I'm thinking more on a personal level. Like I've noticed recently that I've encountered a few people who I feel aversion for because in the past they've been disrespectful to me. And
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about skillful ways to manage that because it was kind of a surprise for me. It was like a person who I hadn't seen in a few years, and then I realized that I felt strong dislike for that person, and I wasn't sure what to do with that.
My meditation teacher has given me the best advice in relationships that are um, going a little bit sideways or problematic for whatever reason. Uh, her advice is that you give metta to yourself, and of course, because you're feeling aversion and you've been hurt, metta to yourself, and then metta to this other person, and then back and forth, sometimes quite quickly, sometimes. You wouldn't start that way. You want to really experience metta for yourself and then experience metta for this other person. Back and forth and back and forth. And then Sita, believe it or not, you'll learn. Oh, this is where the boundary needs to be, and it'll be clear. Like it's not just taking care of you. It's not just taking care of them. It's like the appropriate place. And you might be surprised. It might be way out here. It might not be. Um, but I promise you, you'll know. The mind will just get clear because the emotions are getting cared for. Yeah. It's incredible. And the clarity doesn't like come from thinking about it. It's like it comes from the gut, it comes from the belly. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll try to work with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And trust the process and trust yourself. Yeah. And and you can the skillful means is to figure out a way to use your words rather than letting someone take advantage or whatever, or be disrespectful, and just eating it, and then being so averse. Yeah. But the aversion, it's doing a job. It's got a protective function. So it's like an alarm system in us. And so we want to learn. Oh, yeah. And it also is giving us information about our own limits and our own capacity, you know?
Ayya.
Honey, hi. Nice to see you. Wait, you were
Um,
okay, go ahead. Oh, it's funny. It doesn't say you're muted, but we can't hear you.
um, can
Oh,
you?
now we can. Perfect.
Okay. Um, you mentioned about guarding our own minds. Would we do that through meditation, to like guard the mind, or will we kind of do chanting, or like the sutras, or like um, I'm just thinking lately I've been doing a lot of just metta when a thought appears and it causes feelings, either pleasant or unpleasant or whatever. And I apply metta to those thoughts, and the mind being the mind, gets bored with that and then goes on to something else. Now, is this a beneficial thing to do, or that I'm just postponing what wisdom that might come as a result of the perceptions?
So, are you talking about when you're meditating, Connie? Or are you talking about when you're moving through your day?
When I'm moving through the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Meditate, if I'm sitting, it's easier, but
yeah,
going through the day, yeah.
yeah. So, what kinds of, you can't, every thought you have, you can't be doing metta. Are you talking about a thought that's
Is
negative or?
yeah, it's a thought that has strong feelings.
Mhm.
Either it's full of dukkha or um, well, sometimes it's very, very pleasant, but it goes over the top. Like it's just sort of like that it didn't seem appropriate, that feeling, at that time. So applying metta to the thought or to the if it's a person, then it would be to the person. But I think my question is am I deluding myself by doing that?
I'm not completely clear because y- it sounds to me like when like it's not really a thought that's negative. Like there's just like negativity. Um,
Yeah, I think it conjures up negativity or conjures up like the feelings that kind of evoke strong feelings that I don't wish to have it linger.
what kinds of strong feelings, like fear or
I think it's
anxiety?
sadness, grief,
Yeah. Okay. So
agitation, like
sadness, grief, what was the other one?
agitation
Agitation.
and
Yeah.
aversion. Like,
Mhm.
like I just don't want to stay in those feelings for a long time.
Um, it's important for us to be able to uh, feel what we feel. So I think that you intuitively know that you're avoiding, I think. And that's why you're saying, am I deluding myself? Um, when there's a strong feeling, Connie, you can think about it as like when your daughter was young and had a strong feeling. And those strong feelings in a young child, they need to be acknowledged and accepted. Like, oh, I see you're really sad that the head fell off your Barbie, like you're and we need to attune. So in the right setting, I mean, obviously not if you're driving and you're with a friend and something comes up, but um in the right setting, you need to allow, if there's grief, a sense of loss, you need to allow it to move through and not sidestep it with just, this the metta is a bit of a band-aid. Yeah. And when we're thinking a lot, sometimes it's because there's an emotion that we're not wanting to actually experience and digest.
Mhm.
And all of our distraction and thinking and all of that is much more problematic than just letting this thing flow through. I think sometimes we get ourselves in a little bit of a straitjacket with the Buddha's teachings. Like, oh, I had someone in an interview go, I know I'm not supposed to be mad. I know I'm not supposed to be angry. What? Like, yeah, you're angry. I mean, this is why the Buddha gave us the teachings, because we're full of anger. We're full of aversion. We're full of craving. We're full of delusion. And then if we tell ourselves, I'm not supposed to be mad, what do you do when you are mad? Like, so we need to, this is where I'm talking about, we got to start being honest. It's okay. You're mad. And what you want to do is take care of that. Don't shirk the responsibility of of dealing with that. Like Sita asked, I've got this aversion. And so she needs to not be averse to the aversion or acting like she doesn't have it. She has it. And it was a surprise. This person came back into her life. And it's like, whoa, wait, you know, um, yeah, this is really big. We need to, I think, as practitioners, make it part of our conversations to be able to talk about my hindrances and my defilements and where I'm at with working with them. Of course they're there. I'm not enlightened. So yeah, and I think, Connie, you really have an intuition that you're like, sort of stamping out these fire. Just let something in the right setting and probably in a meditation. And if you just pop that into the mind, into the heart, like, okay, sadness that's been, biting at my heels, if you want to show up in a meditation, I invite you. You don't need to go digging. Don't, but allow yourself to feel what you feel without clamping down on it. And trust. Your heart's big enough. It can hold that, and it will move through. I mean, there's a beautiful sutta about it. And then Rumi wrote an amazing poem about these visitors, right? They're visitors. These are visitors, and but we need to be a good host, and then we can ask them to leave. But yeah.
Gratitude. Thank you.
Yeah. Good intuition, Connie. Yeah. Yeah. That might be. Oh, we're at time. Okay.
If there are questions, we have time. If there are no questions, we don't have time.
Right.
I thought I saw Kathleen put up her hand.
Oh, great. Thank you, Shirley. That's your voice. Yeah. Thanks. Kathleen, please.
Thank you. The question that arose as you were responding to Sita, and then again, actually, as you were responding to Connie, was when something is a habit of mind. So when something continues to arise, or you anticipate it to arise, I mean, that still is perception of some, but it's about a habit. And so, a habit of thinking a certain way, it's kind of like a habit of seeing someone in a certain way as you're trying to bring yourself back to a neutral place, like acknowledge how you've seen or perceived the relationship with somebody, and you're trying to shift that, you're wanting to create open space for that to shift. How does that, it feels like that relates to what you were just talking about somehow.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Realize, like, oh yeah. I mean, it'd be great if we were honest, you know? Yeah, we bring our preconceived ideas to almost every interaction. Yeah. Um,
I feel like that's what I've been working with in a couple of situations where it's about how can I, even as something as simple as the way I parent Odessa,
mhm.
and then as an example. And now she's an adult. How do I shift? How do I become aware of how I have interacted or responded and shift that so I can see, respond, feel, and she can experience and feel difference. So, what's the habit, and how can I bring awareness to catch that and act in a different way or feel in a different way, release some fear
Yeah,
potentially, and
yeah,
not try to control it, I guess, maybe, or I don't know. But somehow that tied into what I was hearing you respond for my own habit, my own experience, and
yeah.
um,
What you really want to do, Kathleen, is get honest with yourself about the fear. I mean, I'm the same. And it's getting so much better, but my daughter now is 35. Embarrassed to say. And I'm finally not worried, you know.
mm,
That's not true. I still have worry, but I, um, it isn't visceral anymore. It's not in my belly, you know. Um, yeah, it's really important. This is a great example. What you want to do, Kathleen, is really not act like the fear's not there, but you want to, in private, be attending to that fear and um, and also really come to deeply believe like that it's not helpful. It's actually delusional. You know, um it's underestimating our daughters and overestimating ourselves.
mm,
It's full of conceit
mhm.
and
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 delusion.
and delusion. Yeah, and it's quite disrespectful. And it's really hurt my relationship with my daughter. Super hurt it. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So beautiful that you know, Odessa's only what, like 22 or something, or yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Super great that you're onto that. Like awesome. And care for it. And you can care for it, you and Kevin, you know, and care for it with one another and let it be there and but really come to see it as harmful, you know, harmful to Odessa and harmful to your relationship with Odessa. Yeah, yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Great example. Yeah. There's a book by Deborah Tannen, this linguist I've been talking about, and it's I read it because of stuff with my daughter, but it's a book about mother-daughter relationship and the power of shifting. As Odessa grows, she's going to have the power. You've had the power, but she's going to start to have the power where she doesn't need you, you know? And but the title of the book is You're Wearing That? It's all
Well,
about mother-daughter conversation. Yeah.
Kevin just keeps putting the perspective in his I'm going to say, I was going to say non-practitioner way, but that's not true. That it's about, he says, well, just remember, she can put you in the nursing home. So you've got to feed the kind of relationship that she's going to want to come in, you know, as he would say in his crude way, wipe your butt. And so, you know, like you got to make some shifts now. So
Yeah, you really, yeah. You might want to
Wait,
read
what?
that book. The book's great. You're wearing that? Yeah. No, she's great. Super great. And she's all about learning about um, how we're speaking to one another and why, and ways to do it more skillfully. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ayya. And of course, we're very much looking forward to those of us who are able to attend your retreat at the end of the month in person. We're looking forward
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. And it's such a blessing for me. I'm coming to Vancouver early, and I'm going to spend 3 days with my brother and sister, like all together. We're staying together, and we haven't been together since before COVID. So, yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you all. You continue to make beautiful progress on the path. Yeah. And thanks for your great questions.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you, Aya, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.